Global financial markets have witnessed a flood of investment into sustainability-related products, all as a part of an effort to finance the greening of the international economy. Now, this rapid growth of ESG investment, whilst commendable in its intentions, has given rise to an increasingly fragmented regulatory landscape, characterized by a variety of regimes and voluntary sustainability reporting frameworks. This jumble reflects a growing recognition of the material impact of climate change and other ESG risks on corporate performance, but it's also given rise to sustainability reporting that is incomplete and inconsistent across jurisdictions, industries, and companies. Now, that lack of reliable data hinders investors' ability to make informed decisions, raising concerns around mispricing of assets, misallocation of capital, and the associated risk, of course, of greenwashing. We all know that sustainable finance has to deliver trillions of dollars of private capital to enable us to have a chance of realizing net zero targets. But to achieve this, investors must have trust in markets and the information they receive through them. Now, IOSCO, which I chair the board of the IOSCO, as a body of market regulators, is helping chart the way forward. A few months ago, IOSCO identified the IFRS Foundation as the organization we thought was best suited to launch an international standard-setting board focused on enterprise value creation and a climate-first approach to the development of ESG disclosure standards. So the IFRS Foundation's announcement yesterday about the formation of the ISSB was a pivotal moment for us. The new board under the IFRS umbrella offers, in our view, the most credible mechanism for creating a baseline of disclosure standards, enabling a confusing picture to be superseded by a properly aligned global approach. The standards are of special relevance to IOSCO because they will provide key information for the markets that are actually supervised by our members. And they will be designed in the public interest and should be capable of being implemented across developed and developing markets. And I should say that relevance for developing markets is critical given the volume of emissions generated and in light of discussions, difficult discussions about just transition. Crucially, the ISB will develop a comprehensive global baseline of corporate climate disclosure standards that meet the information needs of investors. They'll enable investors to align their investment strategies with the global transition to net zero and will also mitigate, as I mentioned, the ever-present real risk of greenwashing. And that will enable the whole stack of climate finance professionals, from fund managers to ESG rating firms, to raise their game in order that end investors have justified confidence in the products offered and information supplied to them. ESG ratings are currently hampered by subjectivity, transparency issues, and serious inconsistencies in methodology. And asset managers struggle to describe accurately how they manage climate risks at both firm and portfolio levels. Now, recently, IOSCO has published 2 reports detailing how asset managers and ESG ratings providers are expected to operate in order to minimize these types of problem. However, the key point is that these expectations can only be fully realized if we achieve the quality of real economy corporate sustainability disclosures of the type envisaged by the new board. So that's why IOSCO was heavily involved in the technical preparations for the prototype climate standard published yesterday. The idea is that this will provide the new board with a running start in developing a final enhanced global baseline based on best-of-breed practices and proven content sourced from the most widely adopted frameworks and standards now in use. Now, in our view, that baseline standard can also cut a clear pathway to the adoption of a mandatory standard if jurisdictions choose to take that route. It's important because in order to hold corporates properly accountable, the standard should be sufficiently enforceable. It's also crucial that it's an open standard that allows jurisdictions to build on the baseline to accommodate their own sustainability needs and circumstances. And confidence in the standard setting process is also vital from the public interest perspective. The IFRS approach is underpinned by a robust governance structure centered on a technically expert independent board and trustees who have a clear mandate to operate in the public interest. And there's also intensive private and public sector engagement throughout the standards setting development process. And all these layers are ultimately accountable to global public sector authorities monitored by a monitoring board chaired by IOSCO. So people often worry that we can't in reality achieve global sustainability standards given the extreme fragmentation of the standard setting landscape. Our response is pretty straightforward. IOSCO and its members, its member regulators, can act as a bridge for the implementation of global standards for sustainable reporting across our large membership of market regulators. And we needn't reinvent the wheel. IOSCO's endorsement of international financial reporting standards 20 years ago paved the way for our members to adopt those standards domestically. And we can do this again for sustainable finance disclosure standards. That IOSCO bridge is built on two pillars. First, oversight of the quality of IFRS governance and processes through the monitoring board I mentioned, and secondly, a detailed technical assessment of the content of ISSB standards. If our expectations are met, the IOSCO board would then endorse the new standards for over 130 market regulators. And in deciding whether to endorse, IOSCO will consider the standards' potential for achieving international consistency and how they interrelate with conventional financial reporting. We also look at whether the standards provide a sound basis for an assurance framework similar to that used for financial reporting. That is especially challenging due to the special type of forward-looking nature of climate disclosures. So IOSCO is looking to strengthening the assurance framework that can enhance the confidence investors should legitimately place in disclosures produced under ISB standards. So when dealing with the climate emergency is mainly a matter for governments, the measures I have discussed can make a real difference. They build investor trust, they encourage essential investment flows into sustainable products and hold companies to account for their net zero claims. The IFRS Foundation has also agreed to merge with leading international sustainability standard setters, which is a hugely significant development. They've already contributed significant resources to the production of the climate prototype standard, and IOSCO believes that this convergence of standards and organizations is the key to success of a global standard. Thank you very much.